Welcome to the latest episode of Templar Talks. You may notice we are in a vastly different location today. We are ferreted away in the depths of Athena Games.
Big location.
Yeah, they were kind enough to let us film today. We basically were in two minds about if we wanted to film the episode this month after the PT and get it uploaded within the month, which gave us like a very, very small turnaround, or get it up giggity after the PT mess share. So we figured we'd go for the latter, so we had a bit more time.
And then we can do a quick roundup on Discord, can't we, afterwards?
Yeah, of course. Easy. More content, but we do have a lot of topics to go over today. I say a few, as well as the Pro Tour. No, there's more than three. We're going to be kind of talking about the RCQ season. It's effectively over for Team Templar.
It is indeed.
We'll get into why that is. MTGO deck lists have gone down for a week, which is crazy. Obviously, MH3 has released. What impact has that had on Modern and Magic in general? The consensus, the receival of that product. And then obviously the Pro Tour kicked off today. I haven't kept track as of the last hour, but I was watching the draft on my third monitor today while cracking on. It was some good stuff, some spicy stuff going on. And then finally, a bit of a curveball topic that I want to go over that I've noticed lately is like the culture of MTG and why it's so different to other TCGs. I know I always try and bring in other TCGs, but it's something I've noticed that's like really off when it comes to Magic content, which we'll go into detail.
Sure.
But to kick things off, I'd usually hand over to Todd to pick one of those subjects. But I want to kick off with local Norwich coffee shops. Obviously, the most important Magic the Gathering related topic. We were just talking about how much we like Strangers, and I don't know if you've noticed, Strangers actually sell their coffee to other establishments.
Yeah, all the like little independent cafes.
Of course, but for me, I've had this conversation with baristas at a local cafe near me, and they say there shouldn't be. But I feel a lot of the taste of coffee, when you're talking lattes, cappuccinos, is actually down to the barista, because I think Stranger's coffee is significantly better when purchased from one of their direct locations.
Oh, 100%. They dial it in like nobody else.
Yeah, but it's also like temperature, right? Like when you get a coffee, you should be able to drink it straight away.
Oh yeah, I can't abide Costa for that exact reason.
Oh God, yeah. I think Italy, going back to when we were in Naples, they dialed that in of like the espressos were like shottable off the counter.
Yeah.
Whereas
you don't want to wait.
Yeah.
Like, give it to me straight in.
Yeah. I mean, even my favourite local cafe that I go to a lot, I'm being really careful not to name drop because Todd made the joke of doxing myself. But even they, like, I'll leave it for like 20 minutes, like before I drink it, like 15 minutes. Whereas Strangers,
it's straight in.
Yeah, lovely job. But back to actual Magic the Gathering. I guess we'll kick off with the non-modern topic, which is of course the RCQ.
So ready to talk about Modern, man.
But think about it. This is the last time we're going to be able to talk about Pioneer for a while, and that's such a great format.
What a tragedy.
So effectively, the Pioneer season is over for Team Templar. Ed very selfishly is getting married, and a lot of us are on his wedding-related festivities. So
Indeed.
I'm pretty sure only one member of the team, which is, I think, Rocco.
No, two. Oh, no.
Yeah, literally. I think only one. I think Rocco might be the only person from the team who couldn't come on the weekend but might be able to do the day. I can't remember, but I think he's the only one with an opportunity to win the last RCQ locally. And obviously we could travel, but I don't think there's capacity given our weekend. We all have very busy lives, so I don't think...
Agreed, but so... Did any Team Templar qualify, Stephen?
They did. There is going to be a video about it. Previously mentioned, selfish for getting married. Ed managed to take down the recent Skyward Fire Games RCQ, which
unbelievable.
Was great.
Qualifying for Lille and getting married. That's not very fair, is it?
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty good few months, I think, for old Eduardo. But it was great. We got someone qualified. It was becoming that point of like you're worrying. We only obviously had 3 locally that we attended. So 1 in 3 is still pretty good.
And lots of us got close, right?
Yeah, there were lots of top 8s, lots of semis. It was just
lots of semis.
Giggity again. Yeah, I have to make a running thing of that. Just become the lowbrow channel of Magic the Gathering. But yeah, no, Pioneer season, I think, we're not going to talk about it too much because I don't think it's a secret that it's not our biggest passion.
No.
But I do think there were a lot of issues I found with Pioneer that were highlighted in Modern, I've found, at least, and to an extent in Standard, the same players running the same decks would typically get semi-consistent results.
Yes.
And, obviously, I know he recently left Team Templar, but as an example, Phil, in the first RCQ, top forward, and in the second two, 02, 03, and it was the same thing for you.
Yeah.
3-0, double ID into semis, almost make the final, and then the next RCQ, 03. I think Gurney was didn't make any top 8s on the similar list and then went to the semis. And I know there's there's always variance in Magic, but it doesn't feel like in a lot of formats that it's that polarizing. It feels like there's a lot of
I agree.
gameplay.
And I felt incredibly confident in the matchups I played. Or no, I'm going to say it was a bit rock, paper, scissors for me. So when I top forward, the first one at Langdon, it was against a couple of Phoenixes and a red-black Vampires. And the red-black Vampires matchup felt really close. I was really confident against Phoenix. And then I lost to Amalia in the semis. And then when we went to Skyward, I've met the other half of the field and just got stomped by Amalia. Well, I've not stomped, but it was close, but I didn't feel in control. And it doesn't seem, and I definitely ranted about this in the travel. We don't film the travel videos, thank God. And I find decks like Amalia and red-black Vampires that previously were fine or didn't exist, and that we're now in a format where you have to be you have to be able to beat a turn 3 6/6 that drains you and I think it sacrifice a creature.
It's blended those lines maybe between the power level of Modern and Pioneer, in that Modern you always kind of have to be equipped for someone to do something fairly unfair. But in Pioneer it was always supposed to be a bit more of a fair game turn 4 format, and when people are putting in turn 3 Vein Rippers and turn 3 Amalia combos,
to simplify it, I think Modern has incredible threats and incredible answers, and Pioneer has incredible threats and mediocre answers. There isn't a clean way of dealing with a Vein Ripper. There isn't a clean way of preventing Amalia's redundancy. There isn't a clean way even of dealing with Lotus Field particularly.
Quick question. Shows my ignorance on rules. If Vein Ripper was played in Modern, would you be able to flash in a Solitude, target it, evoke, trigger on the stack, sack it to pay the ward cost?
That's a good question. I don't want to put myself out there and answer that. I'm guessing.
In the comments. I don't know, because the way Rakdos Evoke works, obviously you can stack the...
I think you can do it. Yeah. I think you flash the Solitude in, target it, sack it to the ward, and then the effect happens, right?
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
And then the Evoke stack is like, oh, mate, there's no Solitudes. Good job.
But yeah, to summarise, I think Pioneer was... It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it was fairly miserable. Yeah.
It was. It's not a great format to play. No. But then let's talk numbers quickly. So there was. You're better at this than me. Was there less RCQs of Pioneer than there was Standard?
Yes.
Were they more or less attended than Standard?
I think it was similar.
I feel my gut reaction.
Oh no, actually, so locally there were less or the same, and the attendance was about the same. But nationwide, I think there's been a lot less, and they've been higher attended. But in terms of net players, total, I think it's been lower. Yeah. In some, even though there's only 15, there are only 15 odd like RCQs in the entire country. Some of them are like 16 players, 9 players, stuff like that. So people aren't travelling for them.
Yeah. I wonder if MH3 will boost the numbers for the modern season. Let's hope so.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And I guess, you know, we should move on to that. You know, obviously the big talking point here is going to be the Pro Tour meta share, but I think we can gloss over it pretty quickly. The impact of Modern Horizons 3 on Modern has obviously been massive. We can, you know, we'll talk about the meta share, but anyone that has seen it can see that. I think I heard on coverage this morning, Frank Carson said 99% of players have at least one MH3 card in their deck,
incredible
which is
stat,
huge number. However, to call them out, as I like to always call people out on this podcast, I think the same old guard Magic, what I would call Magic boomers, even though I am probably of the age that they are, I played Magic later, so I didn't get used to pre-MH Modern. I think they are the only people I have heard have complaints about MH3, which is the same reasoning of complaints about MH2, MH1, like Modern shouldn't rotate, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But I think everyone else has viewed it as pretty damn positive. It feels like, at least in my opinion, it feels like they actually got the power level pretty right this time.
Yeah.
There's going to be a bit of a caveat to that when we talk about the most played deck of the Pro Tour. But it feels like the prices of singles is lower, even though the product is higher. And it feels like the reason for that is there's no cards like the Evoke Elementals and Ragavan that have to go. You know, you're playing red, Ragavan. Like, you have to own a Ragavan.
Yeah.
You're playing black and MH3, you don't need a Necro Dominance. Like, you know what I mean? So, I think the most expensive card off the top of my head at the moment is probably Flage, right? Which has got up to that £35.
Is Ugin's Labyrinth not?
Oh no, Ugin's Labyrinth that's dropped to about 35 as well.
Yeah.
But because it's only played in a very small set of decks. Yeah. It's not like Ragavan, which I think on launch, Ragavan must have been like 60, 70, 80.
Yeah.
Ragavan was money.
That's interesting, right? Like, if the topic is the impact of MH3, I argued quite early on, didn't I, in the group chat, the Team Templar group chat, I was like, wow, I'm like actually really impressed and buzzing for all of the new love for all these decks, and the cards are not like, oh, this is going to win me the game, but they are like, oh, that quite comfortably goes into Death Shadow, that comfortably goes into Tron, that makes a new archetype in energy, I guess. But like, loads of cards kind of filter into all of these already existing archetypes, but don't completely break them yet. We'll see what the Pro Tour has to offer.
I mean, Merfolk won, you know, the NRG series.
Yeah.
Like it's good to see some of these old.
And then someone else mentioned, but actually MH2 had a pretty good impact on Modern, and I was like, did it? And then reeled off a list of maybe like 20 cards that actually still see play and still impacted, but maybe they're a bit more slow burners. And I think what MH3 has done is kind of really clearly gone, I am this card for this deck. Sure. There's a simplification there in that it's clear what goes where, and maybe there'll be some sleeper cards, but I think, quite a soul land straight into Eldrazi, right? Like, it's been pretty clear. Energy cards kind of go, put me together. Whereas Seasoned Pyromancer was like, I do a thing. Is it good?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I mean, for my 2 cents, I really enjoy the MH sets, and I think it's, when you actually look at non-rotating Modern, if you actually look at top 8 results, most decks rotated pretty quickly, or they were banned because they were broken.
I think it's done most for Magic has just really kept the separation of the formats. Like, it used to be, Sheldred's a good example, right? When a good card comes into Standard, it's usually has to be good enough or is good enough for Pioneer, and sometimes is then good enough for Modern.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the cards that are like 80, 90, £100 a pop.
Yeah.
Whereas like Flage is only 35 quid, probably won't get that much more expensive than 50, even if it's played, because it only goes in Modern.
Yeah,
it's not going to impact Pioneering Standard.
I think importantly as well is like I know Modern is the non-rotating format, and you shouldn't have to keep buying it. But from when I bought in 2019 to now, it is cheaper to buy a Modern deck.
Oh, 100%.
Like, the fetches were something out of my budget when I first built Modern deck. You know, the original like Scalding Tarn, is it the ally fetches they are? I don't know, ally enemy, whatever.
Yeah.
They were like 50, 60 quid a pop, and I wasn't going to spend that. Now they're a tenner, you know, 20 now.
Oh, 100%.
So
MH3's really opened a door, I think, actually, because if you do want to build Boros Energy, that's probably one of the cheapest decks in Modern right now, unless you're playing like 8-whack, but don't play 8-whack.
it's pretty good. I like 8-whack.
Yeah, but if you want to play RCQs, don't play 8-whack, or do, and beat James, because he's prepped for you, but he won't really be ready.
Yeah, that was my favourite FNM moment, was when I was playing the 8-whack Goblin deck, and it was less than a Ragavan, and Gurney played the most expensive deck in the format at the time, which I think was Murktide, and I beat him. And I was like,
well, Murktide can't deal with go wide, right?
Yeah, it's just like, I Goblin grenades, hey. But yeah, I think it's been a good impact. I think most people I've spoken to, I haven't spoken to too many people actually, I should have canvassed opinions more, but I think it's...
Team voice, that's what we should do. We should do team voice forms.
Yeah, I think it's been fairly positive, and I think the people that still complain about the rotation, I think, you know, it's been, what, 6-7 years now since MH1?
Yeah.
Like, let's just stop.
Yeah, and actually the format's in it prior to MH3, we'll see what it obviously eventually lands like, but it was a pretty balanced format.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
1 week Yorgmoth was absolutely clapping, the next week something else. You know, it's been consistently different decks at the top of the meta game. So yeah.
Yeah. So I guess moving on to the Pro Tour, we'll quickly glance over the MTGO deck list down for a week. Do you think that had an effect on Pro Tour? Or do you think it was just like, I guess for people of that level, they probably would have just scraped data anyway, and...
Yeah, so to be clear, MTGO deck list has been down since Monday night, I believe.
Yeah.
And I would say it's difficult to say whether that was Pro Tour related. I'm going to say it's not. Mm-hmm. And more MH related, right? Because people want to get the deals on the cards. I think that's probably going to be it, right? You want to see what is performing well as early as possible, so you can buy your cards before the vendors go, well, you know, this Flage is looking pretty good. Yeah. I bet people would be willing to pay another 20% on that, you know. But ultimately, I also would argue that it's more websites are now providing that data. I know when I started playing, it was probably Goldfish.
Yeah.
And that was it. It was Goldfish. That's where you went to get any of your data, and it's still probably in the top three of places to get data.
It is actually interesting, because, so to reel them off, obviously we've got like MTG Top 8, MTG Dex, MTG Meta.io, like there's a lot of them. Why? Do you know what I mean? Like it's interesting that there's actually a financial model there of enough advertising to keep these sites running, because effectively they offer nothing that any other offers. Like there's small caveats to that. Like I know MTG Dex, I think it is, shows metagame win rates as well, whereas like Goldfish I don't think does.
I think they're just different in different places. I think it's presentation of data, isn't it, as much as anything. But some of them are, and I think if we looked at a similar, well, we play League of Legends, right? How League of Legends, or you could even say Hearthstone, gathers data is by saying, hey, use our app, and we'll give you the best builds, right? And they draw your win rates. But
that's the thing, with Magic, you don't even need the user data, because it's all publicly available information. So like, it feels super weird there's so many. I don't know why there's so many.
Either way, you didn't even know, right, until I mentioned it 5 minutes before the podcast.
Oh, the MTGO. No, I had no idea. No.
Whereas I have literally been refreshing that page every evening for a week, oh man, I just want to see what's doing well. You know,
interesting because I think it's because it's the Pro Tour coming up. I've mainly been looking at Twitter, just to see what people are testing, like individuals. Which, moving on to the Pro Tour, I know you have the meta share available in front of you.
So what did people land on, right? So this is obviously, I quite like this because the kind of radio silence from MTGO, which I would say is going to be having the most games played this week. People have landed on Bant Nardu. I think that was pretty early identified as a really strong archetype. And that makes up 20.2% of the field, which is one fifth.
Tell you what I'll do is I'm going to link the meta game below or put a picture there. Let's just really quickly reel it off and then we'll talk about the outliers.
So Bant Nardu top, Ruby Storm second, Jeskai Control third.
And these are like 20-ish%, 10-ish, 10-ish, and then we get down to the 7-5%.
Yeah, and this surprised me. Was Eldrazi Tron is only 14 decks, 6% of the meta. Then there's another Nardu deck, right, 4 colour. So you could add that together. That makes Nardu 25.5. Yeah.
We also have Mono Black Scam in there, which is about 10%, 5-10% of the meta, and then we get to like the outliers of these
you've
weird
said
decks.
Mono Black Scam. Just to gloss back.
Sure.
Does it play Grief?
Yes.
Not Dead After All?
Yeah. I believe it does. Yeah, I believe it does.
Because I watched it on stream.
And we completely forgot about Jeskai Control as well at 10%, which is...
I did mention that.
Oh, did you? Apologies.
Boris Energy, I thought there'd be more Boris Energy. There's only
it's like
13.
the aggro deck of the tournament.
Yeah, and if you see Amped Raptor go off, it's pretty cracked. Jeskai Wizards, love that deck. That's it.
And I think that the rest of the decks, like we're at like 2% now. These are just like whatever.
Though, if you haven't seen it, I'd urge you to look at Jeskai Dress Down. That deck looks cracked.
It does look good. It does look good.
Now, my personal feelings are there's another 62 decks here.
Yeah, 25% of the meta is unknown, which is less than 5 or less selections. But we're talking Yawgmoths, Murktides, Merfolk, Burn.
What's going to be in there that's spicy, though?
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of decks in there. And I think, so you pointed it out briefly, and it was actually my choice as well. So I think Nardu, we knew would be the most popular deck. And as a team, I think it was a pretty obvious consensus. Jeskai Control, I was pretty betting on that being high numbers. Storm, again, pretty obvious for a top 3 contender.
I would say that my personal feelings on Storm, even at the very beginning, were, but I know what it's doing.
Yes, but it might be too quick.
Maybe.
I think that's where it's landed. But I think the big one that you pointed out and that shocked me is Eldrazi only being 5%. Because I thought Eldrazi might be up there in that 10-15 like big chunk.
Definitely.
And this is with we have not tested. We were not going to the Pro Tour. There was no reason to test. As a
reason
team
to spend that much money.
well, I might have already done it. But transparency wise, as a team, we're not planning on testing until probably 2 weeks before Axion. We'll start looking into it because the meta settles, and why do the work when you have the minds of the pros doing it for you? I think it is super surprising to see Eldrazi so low. I think I'm pretty sure Team Worldly Council mainly ended up on Nardu. Benton, who we've travelled with, is on Benton Madsen. Obviously, I don't know why I say Benton. Benton Madsen, like runner-up of the Pro Tour, like absolute Giga Chad Magic player. He's on Boros Energy, which I feel suits like his crazy play style. Well, it is not even crazy play style. Benton is like the most energetic individual you'll ever meet in your life, and I feel that deck is just chef's kiss.
I don't know. I could see him doing some twiddling with his Nardu deck.
Yeah, sure. Just quickly, confusing everyone with his.
This one still has 2 triggers available.
I actually saw it being played a little bit, and I like the way players have already recognised the way they're doing it is they're moving the creatures that have had 2 activations off to the right, just like in a pile, just to make sure there's no mistakes there. But I do think, and this, I might be wrong, and this is a hot take because we're recording this while the Pro Tour's on. It's 5 p.m. on the Friday. I haven't even looked at the last 3 rounds of results. I think I saw round 1 of Modern. I don't think Nardu will win. I don't think it will win. I think it will be present in top 8. But I think there's been a lot of Pro Tours, if you go back, where the most popular deck has had a huge share. But then it was like even in what Pro Tour was it? I can't remember the name of it, but Hogak Summer, Tron won. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's like that thing. And I always maintain that when Rakdos Scam was or Rakdos Evoke, sorry, I keep switching between the two. It's Scam, come on. When that was the most popular deck at PT Lord of the Rings, everyone was losing their shit about this deck's broken, and obviously it won, and everyone was like, this deck's broken. Eventually Fury got banned, yada yada. I think in the top 8 of that Pro Tour, there were 4 Tron decks, maybe 5. If Tron had won, I think the populace just flocked to Tron. And I've said this before, I think that Magic players are so chase the shiny that depending on what wins this, I think Nardu could just completely if it doesn't win, I think that meta share would be halved at another tournament.
Maybe. I would also argue that a part of the unsuccessful nature of these breakout decks is that nobody's mastered them.
Yeah.
You just haven't had the interactions you need to have to know how to get out of sticky situations or to capitalise on a specific turn. And I think at this point...
How many 4-colour Nardu players were there?
13.
13, so 52, 62. So really, what's more impressive is how they managed to get that many Shukos in playable condition in Europe, right? That's a lot of Shukos. That's what, 250 odd? They're hard to find.
I wonder if there's going to be some game losses for
damage
counterfeit cards.
I don't know. It's interesting. I could see it getting banned just for negative play patterns anyway. Shuko specifically.
That would be my only. It's giving me top vibes in that. Do we really want to be watching that on coverage?
I think it's more Ironworks vibes on top.
I get what you're saying.
But it's doing some bullshit, and it is a bit problematic. So I could see it maybe being addressed. But yeah, obviously, Pro Tour Manager. I'm gonna put my. If I were at the Pro Tour, and I'm not good enough to be at the Pro Tour, so don't take my word for it. But if I were at the Pro Tour, I would have played Jeskai Control. And that's my bet for what I think will win. I think that deck is very, very good.
I don't have. Oh, do you know what? I'm surprised that I haven't seen because it was quite an early kind of. There was somewhat success. Was Mardo Ephemerate? I'm surprised that hasn't.
Yeah. I think that was good.
Hasn't actually, or at least it hasn't been named.
Yeah, I mean that's another one I feel could be in that 4 or 5 that then does well and makes a day 2, maybe not a day 3. But I think Nardu, there'll be at least 2-3 Nardu decks in the top 8 just because of quantity. But I do think Jeskai Control will finish strong, and I might be wrong there, but it looks
no, mate, you're cool.
Very good.
I'm not going to make a call because no. But I'll just say that I think Boros Energy's sweet. I don't know if it'll do well there.
I think the deck's sweet as well. I do think that's a very cool deck. And then I guess to finish off today, obviously it's going to be a short episode because we're sat on a staircase.
My bum is numb.
Yes, it's not ideal. MTG culture. So this is my curveball topic that I haven't.
We've had no prior discussion.
Yeah, no context to this whatsoever. So I got on a rabbit hole. I went down a rabbit hole on YouTube of watching a few more Pokemon videos again.
Okay.
So primarily because I got recommended someone was opening a store in the UK, and I was like, this is quite interesting, seeing the process of renovating it. It was interesting buying stock in other countries to bring over. And as a result, you get recommended more videos. And in those videos of, buying stock, setting the store up, there are obviously a lot of openings, which happen a lot here as well. Like, at F&M, like we see Pokemon players, One Piece players. Specifically on Friday, because those are the games played.
Yeah.
And you get that vibe, like when someone opens an Enchanted in Lorcana, or a full art in Pokemon, or I don't know what One Piece is, but a good card in One Piece.
A Luffy.
One of them. You hear it. And this is what I've noticed in all of these YouTube things, and obviously it's over-exemplified, but there's people like Randolph Pokemon. I don't know if you know
No.
him. He's one of the Sidemen's friends, right? So he's managed to build a platform off the back of that. And no discredit, like obviously he's done a hell of a lot of fucking work
dude,
as
well done.
Yeah. But in all of these Pokemon opening videos, when Logan Paul was doing on there, there's so much hype. People are so fucking excited to open these cards. And the thing that blows my mind is, like, when I made my brief dip into Pokemon, the most expensive cards you can pretty much open is so there's like super rare, like £100 variants, but most of them, people are getting gassed over like £20 cards. Like super, super gassed. Like, I've spent £5 on a booster pack, I've got 20 back. I am over the moon. In Magic, like obviously we've made a bit of it. You'll see this in the RCQ video when Ed won, and also our recent video, which will be on our YouTube channel, which hopefully you're watching this on. If you're on Spotify, go over there and watch it. Of your pack openings where it's like throw. Throw. Like obviously we're exaggerating that, but I would also argue that is actually what pack opening is like.
Oh no, well the one that gets me, and you see it so often, is like 3 or 4 Magic players around a bin at a big event, just dashing the top 14 cards into the bin, looking at the rare. It either goes in the deck box or it gets dashed into the bin.
But I even remember, so like Will Atkins is a pretty expressive person. And he opened a Lord of the Rings set pack at F&M, opened it and was just like, oh wow, and then turned it round and there was an Orcish Bowmasters with a foil Orcish Bowmasters behind it, and this was when they were like 50 quid, and it was just like, oh cool, showed everyone's like, oh nice, and then we just go back to our games. Whereas with Pokemon, like everyone loses their shit.
And I'm gonna propose a reason why now, and that reason
I have a theory why as well, but
is that they are brand characters, and you are buzzed if you get a Pikachu because it's a Pikachu, and not only is it a Pikachu, but it's like a mega Pikachu. It's One Piece Monkey D. Luffy, main character of the anime. It's shiny. Oh, look, it's a Luffy. Way right, and the same for Lorcana. It's a princess, or whereas Magic, it's like, it's an Orcish Bowmaster.
I know.
It's not like a character. There's no.
But the One Ring didn't evoke that emotion.
Yeah, but that's because it's not even. It's an object. I don't know. I just don't think. I
know what you mean. I think it's. I would be interested, and I don't know this, but this is based on like Magic openings I've seen as well, are less hype. Maybe it's
investment, right?
But maybe casual players might react differently. Like if you went to a Magicon or a Command Fest, maybe it's a different experience, because maybe we're just like hardened, miserable comp players.
But like if you look at the Tolarian Academy, right? He opens the box, and then it's just like, do I get enough to go to the next box?
I can't believe though. So obviously, the prof does his booster box game, and with collector's boosters, he doesn't do the booster box game. He just buys one and shows how much he gets. If he gets over, he doesn't go again. I can't believe this is a super controversial statement. For me, watching him price that video, so he was guessing as part of the game. He kind of is like, oh, that must be this much. This must be this much. For me, that was like listening to that interview when I think it was David Cameron or Boris Johnson got asked how much a pint of milk was. Because I was just like, have you bought a Magic card in the last 5 to 6 years? Like, it was like, there were like cards that were like such obvious, like 20p bulk rares. And it's like, at least $15, and you're sat there like, what? Buy mine for that much. And yeah, I found it quite funny because I guess there's different avenues though of what you're into in Magic, right? You might not be into the finance.
I, in contrast, I'm shocked at how cheap some cards are, and like I will go out and say this now: 6.
It's undervalued.
A 2/4 that gives every permanent card in my graveyard.
I think it's a 2/3, isn't it?
No, it's a 2/4. I'm sure it's unboltable.
Okay.
It's a 2/4, right? 2/4, so it dodges half the removal of the format, and it gives your permanence retrace in your graveyard, and it's like £6, and it's a mythic, isn't it?
No, it is a rare.
It is a rare, but Christ, should be at least 15 quid.
I can't believe Birthing Ritual, £6 enchantment mythic. And that's like a £5 or so.
Yeah, a Ajani even, like on...
Yeah, Ajani's like 10, 15 quid, right?
Yeah, and not card market prices. These are like...
Vendor price.
I can get it for 16 quid from Madhouse, and Madhouse will shake you down for your pants, do you know what I mean? I just couldn't believe it. And like that card should be at least 35. Yeah, wild.
I think it is crazy. But like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe as well there's like... I know it sounds silly, but there's a lot more. Maybe the circles of which I am involved in Magic are of a different maturity level, because I know there's typically not that much drama with anyone we like. You know, there's no like Magic scandals.
No.
I threw the table or whatever, that kind of shit that you always hear about. It happens all the time in Magic.
Yeah.
We're just not around it. Let's hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
But I think that's another thing in Pokemon and some other TCGs. Maybe the level of emotion is just a little over the top.
I mean, like if you look at like Super Smash Brother tournaments, like they're often surrounded by drama and violence. Not saying that, but like video games is a comparable.
I do think it's a shame
industry.
though, because like it's like at the Pro Tour. You get a bit of hype when someone wins the fucking thing, but they've won like thousands of pounds.
The most,
but like esports and like League, everyone's hyped as hell. There's a lot
maybe it's
more...
the Monster Energy drinks though. I don't think there's as many as those in Magic.
Oh, I don't know. The amount of people like captain of Team Templar, Rocco rocks in 5 to 7 at F&M with a monster in hand.
The only one that I've been on the peripheral of, like witnessed, I haven't been in a group that. We were pretty hyped when Ed won the RCQ the last weekend. Like that was
for sure.
Because for such few events to even get one player in the team qualified felt like a big deal.
Yeah.
And our local metagame, the players from our local game stores are really high quality players.
It's a strong field.
And then was GP Birmingham was when the Scottish player won the Legacy event, Gary.
Oh,
Gary.
yeah, I know.
And I was there.
Legacy Gary from Scotland.
Legacy Gary.
I know,
Sorry, yeah.
I don't know who. I've never met him, but everyone knows like Gary from Scotland.
He's somewhat famous. I see him in a room. He's there. He's like, Mangucci, Gary. Like you spot the people who have done well, right? And the absolute scene when he won with what it was Mono Red Prison he won with. Was wild, and I felt it was a bit like football, not that I'm particularly interested in football, but when you're in the stadium and someone scores and there's that like
the buzz.
30 seconds to a minute and a half where people are just like, throw my money at the wall, beer everywhere, and like it was like that. There was like a rise in the kind of room when he won, and I was like, do you know what? It's pretty cool. Like, good for him. I fucking rate Gary. I'm sure he's a top bloke, even though I never met him. Do you know what I mean?
I think actually, you know what? Like, might have taken away from it, and this is just an observation of the events I've been to, is not having 2-day events.
Yeah.
And the second day. So with the RCs, because the top 8 is on the second day. It's pretty late by the time it finishes.
Yeah.
And I remember like some of my first Action events, or even the first ones we went to with the team, you'd get to the top 8. And I remember like when Phil lost the final of the Mega Modern, it was like a room of 8 people left. Everyone had gone home. And it was just like,
Yeah.
Like the
Anticlimactic.
winner of it, I think there was literally someone kind of like wandered in, was like, "Is your game done yet?" And he's like, "Yeah, I won." And they're like, "Oh, good job. Should we go?" and that was kind of like the celebration, right?
So what you're proposing is that we have midday finals.
Yeah,
like the 1 o'clock kickoff.
So maybe the PT top 8s are actually pretty high because it is in the day. But anyway, we should probably wrap it there because we actually have to go to F&M and we're rambling about God knows what. But,
watch the PT, watch us. Or you probably already watched the PT when you
I imagine
this, but,
the PT will definitely get some views without us.
To be fair, talking just final topic or final slide in here, 15k viewers of this afternoon on a Friday mid-afternoon. I was like, gas.
Yeah.
People tune in for Modern like they don't tune in for anything else, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, Modern is definitely more popular, and it's good to see, and I hope WotC respond accordingly. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. In terms of upcoming things, we're going to be doing a refreshed Meet the Team video for this year. It'll be coming in a month or so. We're going to be doing the first episode of Gurney Tries, which is going to be a new little thing we're doing, which will be good fun video to film. The RCQ roundup from Ed's victory should be up in the next couple of weeks. And then obviously we'll be back for another podcast episode next month. And events, we're going to be at a variety of Axion events. So if you see us there, do say hi. It's always great to meet people. And the Magic community in the UK is a hell of a thing. So with that, from us, thank you very much. Have a fantastic rest of your day, whatever time you're watching this. And in terms of the PT, let's hope that who's there that I want to win? Benton and Sean make the top 8. Let's energy to
positive
the boys.
vibes.
Fuck yeah. Have a good one.
Peace.
Fucking cretin.